Thank you, Ken. It's a real pleasure for me to have a chance to speak to all of you. And while Ken pointed out the highlights of technology, I'm not so sure that that's the case given our sound challenges. And who knows what we'll see in tonight's presentation as far as video or not. But it really is an honor to be able to give this talk each year, and in so doing, take a look back at what were some of the highlights of the past year, and then simultaneously project forward and try to take a look at what we might expect in the year or the years to come. And so to do that this evening, I thought that I might build the whole talk around a fact that Dean Seidhamel passed away in May of 2013. And with his passing, we as a community had an opportunity to reflect on a legacy that he in fact created over his 35 years as Dean of Students. And so for the purposes of the talk tonight, I am going to invite all of us to consider Dean Seidhamel's legacy, the foundation that he laid, which informs our history, and I think actually projects as a guide to our future. As I already mentioned, Dean Seidhamel was our Dean of Students for 35 years. He was my Dean of Students when I was a student here in the Pritzker School of Medicine. During the era in which he was the Dean of Students, he laid the foundation from which we draw today. And that foundation consists of at least 6 principles that I want to highlight and build tonight's comments around. The first is he strongly believed that our students are our greatest asset. He also thought that it was incumbent upon the faculty to ensure that the students had a positive experience during their time in our medical school. Faculty often said that when the telephone rang, yes, it was a telephone in those days, and the caller was identified as Dean Seidhamel, they always took the call. Now, when I think about that today, I have hundreds of examples every single day where our faculty not only take the call, but create the environment and the atmosphere that creates this school. And so I'll have a few examples of how our faculty are doing that today. Dean Seidhamel also believed that the school existed to foster rigorous thought, scholarship, and interdisciplinary study. I think our new curriculum, the Pritzker Initiative, does exactly that. He also encouraged the students and the faculty to have a spirit of service about them and about their work. And then finally, he was absolutely committed, not only during his 35 years as Dean of Students, but in the years that followed, to be committed to reducing medical student debt. And so it's these 6 principles that I will focus on over the course of my remarks this evening. The first year in which the timeline is readily apparent is 1951, a year when perhaps almost everybody in the audience was not yet even born. And that was the year that Dean Seidhamel was appointed the Dean of Students. Now you'll see in this picture, at the time of his appointment, Dean Seidhamel is a brand new Dean of Students, and he's standing side by side with one of our alumni council members who's here in the audience tonight, Dr. Coleman Suskind, a talented and dedicated general internist. Coleman, do you want to wave your hand so that we can all celebrate you? I also want to mention that you see the title projected here as Dean of Students, but Dean Seidhamel felt very strongly that he was really the Dean for students. And that was his organizing principle for how he carried out his day-to-day work. He did, in fact, live each day believing that the students in this medical school were our greatest asset. And it was in the fall, late summer, of last year when we welcomed our newest class of medical students, the class of 2017. And you see them pictured here in Rockefeller Chapel on the occasion of their white coat ceremony. Welcome to our first-year medical students. We also have several students in the class today who have been recognized on a national level. All of our students are important to us and are recognized every single day on a local level. But on occasion, our students have an opportunity to be recognized nationally. And I've featured just a few of them here. Two, Kirk Cahill and Raymond Morsheed, are currently doing Howard Hughes medical research fellowships during the course of this year. Cami Petrie is one of two voting members of the LCME, a highly coveted position for any student in this country. Lisa Pruitt is a member of the Bucksbaum Institute, and this year is spending the year in Africa working under the mentorship of Dr. Fumi Olapati on a Doris Duke Foundation clinical research project focused on breast cancer in Africans. Kunmi Sobowale and Jessica Portillo are both recipients of the AMA Physicians of Tomorrow scholarships. They are two of 21 students in the entire country who were selected for this award. And as I said last year, when we also had two students who were selected for this award, it's particularly gratifying for the school as a whole to have two of our students out of the 21 scholarship recipients that are awarded across the country. It's also the case that Kunmi is presently doing a Fogarty Fellowship in Vietnam. We also have students who have served as leaders for national organizations. And once again, you see Kunmi, who last winter served as the leader for the Step Up Conference, which is a conference focusing on bringing underrepresented minority students from the local community to an introduction to having careers in medicine and science. David, one of our third-year medical students, organized a conference focused on integrative medicine. And you see him pictured here with one of our faculty based at North Shore, whose specialty is actually in integrative medicine. Cassie Fritz, one of our fourth-year medical students, this past summer served as the student leader for our summer pipeline programs, working very closely with Dr. Monica Vella. And in so doing, not only did they deliver the pipeline programs, but they reorganized those pipeline programs into a highly effective and highly interactive set of experiences. And just last evening, I had an opportunity to read, I think, the first version of a manuscript that they have prepared based on that experience. Aubrey Jordan and Brenna Hughes, two of our second-year medical students, launched a summer intensive last summer focusing on women in medicine and specifically on skills that women might consider developing during their time in medical school and in the years thereafter to serve them in their careers as physicians. And they did this under the mentorship of Dr. Karen Kim. Nathan West, another one of our fourth-year medical students, was featured just recently through the Office of Diversity and Inclusion in its Brown Bag Lunch series, where he presented genderbread as part of the topic for discussion and facilitated that discussion. And I believe Nathan was the very first student to present in that forum. 1958. In the year 1958, Dr. Seidhamel stepped forward on a national level and founded the National Group on Student Affairs. This group on student affairs continues to exist today, and in medical schools all across the country, student affairs offices are guided by the principles and the framework that was first presented those many decades ago by our very own Dean Seidhamel. And when you think about Dean Seidhamel's background as a biochemist, when he put forward a group on student affairs where the focus was going to be specifically on enriching the experience of the students during their time in medical school, it was really very forward thinking. And as I said, that group not only continues to exist today, but provides a very important national voice for every aspect of the student experience and student life, not only on this campus, but in campuses across the country. It's also the case that Dean Seidhamel was the author and the founder of a pass-fail evaluation system that was adopted by this faculty in this school and has subsequently been picked up by schools all across the country. He was wholly committed to ensuring a positive student experience. Now, it's one thing to have a founding father, so to speak, who has as his own personal mission to have and create a positive experience for our students, but it's quite another to be delivering on that promise several decades later. And so I wanted to share with you our most recent data through the eyes and mouths of the students who graduated in June of 2013 from our medical school. And this data comes from the graduation questionnaire that they complete at the time of graduation, where they are giving data not directly to us, but to the AAMC. And once the AAMC has collected all that data and aggregates it, the AAMC sends it back to the school in late summer, early fall. So these are the comments from our most recent graduates. And of course, they're not comprehensive, but I think you'll get a flavor of how our most recent graduates experienced the school. And I want to highlight that these comments come from the very first class of students who experienced all 4 years of the Pritzker initiative. So these were this was the first graduating class to have experienced the new curriculum. I hope those comments give you a flavor for how our students felt as they left our medical school. We also have an opportunity to see pages and pages of data of how they have evaluated each course in the curriculum and every aspect of their experience during their time here. One of the questions that we pay particular attention to is how they have evaluated their overall experience in the school. They have an opportunity to either strongly agree, to be neutral, to disagree, or to strongly disagree with a whole variety of different statements that they are presented with. One of those statements is, overall, I am satisfied with the quality of my medical education. And last year, 97.4% either agreed or strongly agreed with that statement. That means that, unfortunately, we had one student who left feeling neutral, or they disagreed or strongly disagreed with that statement. But the overwhelming majority, all but one, agreed or strongly agreed that they were satisfied with the quality of the experience. We also have a very strong career advising team composed of faculty from a variety of different backgrounds. And the students on this same questionnaire are invited to respond to the question about their overall satisfaction with career planning services. And you can see that 75% were satisfied or very satisfied with their career planning services, and 92% were satisfied or very satisfied with the student programs and activities that promote effective stress management, a balanced lifestyle, and overall well-being. These programs are under the direction of Elizabeth Keefe as our Director of Student Wellness and under Jim Woodruff as our Associate Dean of Students. We also monitor the curriculum on an ongoing and regular basis, a Pritzker Initiative curriculum that is supported by an excellent staff under the direction of Dr. Helena Bruckner, our Associate Dean. And in the ongoing evaluation of that curriculum, you see how our students from first and second year have responded to the question, the basic science and clinical medicine content was well integrated both within and across the courses throughout the year. You also have a chance to see how the first, second, and third year students felt about their particular year of the curriculum, either agreeing or strongly agreeing with the satisfaction with that curriculum. A more bird's eye view. Okay, now, it's one thing to hear directly from our students, but then the question becomes, how do the students perform in their residencies, and what do the residency program directors say about our students? And in general, year after year, our students go on to perform at the very top of their residency program class. I have a lot of data that I could share with you, but I've selected a few comments to try to give you a flavor of how the residency programs experienced our graduates. So obviously those kinds of comments are not only inspiring to us when we see them, but I think most of all they speak to the quality of the graduates once they leave and perform in their residency programs. So we do have faculty who answer the call in so many ways every single day that time does not permit me to take an in-depth view of that. But I wanted to highlight a few of the most recent faculty successes that are directly related to our students. Here you see Dr. Jim Woodruff, our Associate Dean of Students, who was recognized in 2013 with the Midwest Society of General Internal Medicine's Community Service and Advocacy Award. You also see Graham Bell, who received the Banting Medal for Scientific Achievement for his contributions to diabetes over the course of his career in making the fundamental discoveries associated with that disease. And just recently, we were all thrilled to learn that our leaders, Dr. Ralph Wexelbaum and Jeffrey Green, have received $90 million to support research on cancer metastases. This is just a sampling, a set of highlights of some of the accolades that our faculty have received over the course of the last year. We also have faculty who have recently been appointed to oversee new areas of responsibility in the medical school or in our residency and fellowship programs. Dr. Jeannie Farnan was recently appointed as the Director of Curricular Evaluation based on her skills earned in the MHPE program from the University of Illinois. And I know that members of our Alumni Council had a chance to see Jeannie's leadership and work today as the director of our Clinical Performance Center. Dr. Fromey was appointed as the Director of Medical Student Performance Evaluation, overseeing the complete final summative evaluation of every student who graduates from our medical school and the preparation of the MSPE, the Medical Student Performance Evaluation, that goes with the students as they apply to residency programs all across the country. Dr. Jason Poston was appointed Director of Fourth Year Studies, and he and Dr. Farnan created an incredible computer interface that allows our students to better plan their fourth year offerings to meet the competencies that we expect of them over the course of their time in medical school, and specifically over the course of their fourth year. Dr. Shola Olapati was named the Director of International Programs, working closely with the Office of Global Health as well as the Office of Medical Education. David Song was appointed our very first Associate Dean for Continuing Medical Education, and Dr. Vinny Arora was appointed Director of GME, Clinical Learning Environment Innovation. I will have more to say about that in a moment, about the future and the future for graduate medical education in this institution and across the country. We also had a time to remember the lives of people who were lost from our faculty. And again, this is not a comprehensive list, but a highlight of some of those who were most directly engaged with medical education. Dr. Francis Strauss, who passed away on January 8th, the go-to surgical pathologist and whose own work in the surgical pathology of thyroid disease made a major contribution to that field. And I can say to all of you that when I applied to medical school here at the University of Chicago, Dr. Strauss was one of the 2 individuals who interviewed me for medical school. Dr. Janet Rowley, whose legacy will go on in so many different ways through her fundamental work on the chromosomal rearrangements and the impact that that rearrangement has on not only the identification of the type of cancer that one has, but also the drug therapy that has now been developed and designed because of her work. She had a very important presence for our students, our residents, our faculty, our scientists. And Dr. Joel Schwab, who delivered the commencement address last May, and for whom a memorial service is planned on March 6th, beginning at 9:30 in the morning at Rockefeller, followed by an educational symposium during the day on March 6th. 1967 was another seminal year in the history of this medical school under the leadership of Dr. Seidhamel. And that was the year in which Dr. Seidhamel had persuaded the NIH to create medical scientist training programs. And the medical scientist training program at this medical school was one of the very first programs in the country. There are many different ways to judge the success of our MSTP program, but this just gives you a very high-level view of the impact of that program. As I said, established in 1967, over that time we've had 6 different directors, 265 graduates, the majority of whom are in academia, research, or work in the pharmaceutical industry, and about 20% who work today in private practice. You also see some of the recent publications and recent successes of our MSTP program graduates, as illustrated on this slide. And again, obviously, only a sampling from our most recent graduates. You also see some of the outcome data from where our MSTP students match for their residency programs. And this, of course, from the most recent decade, 2002 to 2012. One of the fundamental underpinnings of our new curriculum is the scholarship and discovery tracks under the direction of Vinnie Aurora and the recent addition of Rachel Wolfson. And you see here the breakdown by student selection for what they are choosing to do their scholarship and discovery project in. And these represent the current selections by students in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year classes from the medical school. You can see that the majority of students are selecting to do their research work in basic science, but you see actually a pretty even breakdown in a number of other disciplines ranging from community health, clinical research, global health, medical education, quality and safety, and the social sciences, taking full advantage of the interdisciplinary nature of the campus on which we're privileged to work. You also see a very long-standing tradition of scholarship and discovery that predated our Pritzker initiative. And you see that illustrated here, where on May 22nd of this year, we will celebrate the 68th anniversary of the senior scientific session. So this particular event, first founded by Leon Jacobson, predated even Dr. Seidhamel's stint as Dean of Students. This summer, the summer of 2014, we will celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Summer Research Program, a program that was started by Dean Seidhamel. 1982. 1982 was another seminal moment in the history of this medical school, and a moment that was inspired by Dean Seidhamel. That moment is when Dean Seidhamel received the Gold Key Award. And in the many interviews that Dean Seidhamel delivered, he often referenced receiving the Gold Key Award as one of the most important honors he received over the course of his entire career. It was that spirit of service that Dean Seidhamel devoted to our medical school and to this university that has created a legacy of service that lives on today. And that legacy of service comes through the hands and hearts of our own medical students who serve in the local community here in Inglewood and here at the Washington Park Clinic. And I want to thank all of our students who volunteer in these clinics on a regular basis. And I want to make a special thanks to the faculty who work as their supervisors in these clinics that exist across the south side of Chicago. It's also the case that the spirit of service is illustrated through the work that our students do in interactions with faculty, and we celebrate their contributions to the compassionate care of patients. We have recently started a Pritzker poetry contest to highlight that compassionate aspect of their work. And what you see featured next is the very first winner of our very first Pritzker poetry contest, Lindsay Poston, a second-year medical student.
I'm Lindsay Poston, and this is One More Cut. Memory slits grimace, recalling days she was the clown, and days she sang the morning star, with a voice that rang strong and clear as the morphine drip, now pinned through flailing forearm, thinned enough to show 2 bones. Belly scars inscribe a life of babies born, then ovaries torn, of kidneys lost and gained. And with the newest cut, she's lost a knee that bounced those giggling babes, a leg that danced the days she sang. Where once that sturdy leg was bent, fresh stitches stretch flesh round bones' end. Drip runs dry, the morning star fades. One grandchild on the phone, fighting doctors calling home, saying 3 weeks left, unless they carve out something new. Amidst the murmurs of somectomy, anesthetized, she speaks her plea. They just cut, cut, cut. It ain't nothing new. They just cut, cut, cut where the bad cells grew. Doctor, no. I'm tired, I'm through. One more cut ain't gonna heal. One more cut ain't gonna do.
January 15th was the deadline for our second Pritzker Poetry Contest, and stay tuned. We will soon have another winner. We also have our newest class of Bucksbaum student scholars, and you see them pictured here. The Bucksbaum Institute is committed to several aims focused on the doctor-patient relationship, and these 4 students, as I said, are the most recent students selected to be part of that institute. But the institute has programming open to students and faculty from all departments and all disciplines throughout the entire year. And next month, Dr. Siegler and I will be teaching a new course through the Bucksbaum Institute for our 4th-year medical students. It's also the case that service to one another is sometimes inspired by tragic events when they happen. And unfortunately, this year, we have had more than our share of tragedies. One of those tragedies, you may remember, occurred at the time of the LAX shooting. And when the LAX shooting occurred, unfortunately, one of those shot was the brother of one of our 4th-year medical students, actually Nick Ludmer, our Pritzker chief. And when Nick's brother was shot, fortunately, his brother still is alive, but his brother sustained very serious orthopedic injuries and continues in therapy today. And at the time that this happened, there was a groundswell of support from our students. And among the support that took place was a dedication of all of the proceeds that the students raised from their Friday afternoon social rounds that was sent to Nick's brother in California, where he found himself actually in the hospital, and I believe without insurance. Just a few weeks after that, our first year medical student, Mike Petrovic, got a call from his family on a Sunday afternoon to let him know that the family home in Washington, Illinois, had been devastated by the tornado that went through Washington, Illinois. And so once again, our students rallied behind the support of a newest member of our community, and they once again donated the proceeds from social rounds to the American Red Cross tornado relief. But there was also a group of 40 first-year students who gathered on a weekend, and they went to Washington, Illinois, and did their best to help with the cleanup efforts. And when that weekend was over, Mike's father sent me an email message, and I won't read the whole thing, but with his permission, I'm sharing with you just an excerpt of what he said. I am so very grateful for the help of all of the medical students. While I don't know everyone's name, I do know that you have a wonderful group of students. If you have an opportunity to award grades for teamwork, compassion, and community service, I hope you will award them all A+. So our students make an impact. They make an impact in the classroom, they make an impact in our local community, and they make an impact in their response to tragedy. 1999, another seminal moment in the history of Dean Seidhamel's impact at the University of Chicago. And on this particular moment, on this particular occasion, there was a brand new scholarship created in his honor. And here is what you see that was written at the time coming from Dean Seidhamel. During the years that I knew Dean Seidhamel, I would say this is the topic I heard him speak about more than any other single topic. He was a man on a mission to alleviate medical student debt.
Get aid while they were here, and I considered it that as long as I live, that'll be my legacy to them.
So Dean Seidhamel, as you heard him say, said as long as he lived, that would be his legacy to the medical students of the Pritzker School of Medicine. What he doesn't fully appreciate is that that's his legacy even today after he has passed from this earth. And let me show you what I mean by that. His mission to reduce student debt and the creation of the fund in his honor has these statistics associated with it. When I see those numbers, I now think of our dean, Dean Seidhamel, as a $2 million dean. And let me show you how that money goes to work today. There are many different scholarship funds that we have in the medical school. The Joseph J. Seidhamel Scholarship Fund is the largest. All of those scholarship funds in aggregate have contributed to allowing us to bring down the student debt in the way in which you see depicted here. It's also the case that our alumni support our students with scholarships in a whole variety of different ways. I do not have time to highlight all of them, but I want to highlight a few of the newest. So this particular scholarship, the Ting-Hua Wong Scholarship, was created by a student of Dr. Wong's, Dr. Jane Chan. Dr. Jane Chan graduated from this medical school in 1982, And during her years at the Pritzker School of Medicine, she was inspired by the teaching of Dr. Ting-Hua Wang and also the research mentoring of Dr. Ting-Hua Wang. Dr. Chan went on to pursue residency training in internal medicine, followed by a pulmonary and critical care fellowship, and today spends her life in a very busy critical care practice. And she reached a point in her life in that critical care practice when she decided she wanted to give back and say thank you and honor Dr. Ting-Hua Wang with the Ting-Hua Wang Scholarship. And so this scholarship identifies a student whose overall performance in the clinical pathophysiology course and whose overall performance as a physician of exemplary character, kindness, and compassion is most aligned with the traits identified by Dr. Chan and Dr. Wang. And this year, our very first recipient of the Ting-Hua Wang Scholarship is Tess Murray, one of our fourth-year medical students. I think this is a wonderful story of the power of mentoring and the ability to think back and reflect back with a gift that creates its own legacy. The Dr. John D. Arnold Scientific Research Prize was actually also created with a similar purpose in mind. Dr. Charles Pack created this research prize in honor of his mentor, Dr. John D. Arnold. And so the three students who you see featured here are students who have not only achieved exemplary achievement in research, but they have done that under the direction of a mentor with whom they have had a very positive mentoring relationship. We also have the Michael H. Silverman Global Health Scholarship, and you see here Brittany and Bailey, two of our fourth-year medical students who are the recipients of this scholarship. This scholarship was created to allow students the opportunity to explore the issues of global health on a global basis. And Dr. Silverman is actually here with us in the audience tonight. Mike, do you want to raise your hand so we can all thank you for what you've created? I can also say I don't have a picture or a name, but Dr. Silverman has actually created yet another scholarship that will go on and have the kind of impact that I've illustrated. Doctors Dennis Lee and Anita Chang Lee have also created a scholarship. Dr. Lee, are you here? Is Dr. Lee here? He won. Oh, Dr. Lee, way in the back of the room. Okay, Dr. Lee, we should give you a round of applause. So Doctors Dennis and Anita Chang Lee created this scholarship. You see the recipients, all of whom are fourth-year medical students. And their sense of this scholarship was, again, to give students the opportunity to not only be recognized and achieve new opportunities in scholarly work and in solving the problems both on a local and a national level. And we are enormously grateful for that. We also have a scholarship that has recently had new significant infusion. And Greg Thomas is here. And I want to invite all of you to also thank Greg and his family for the Stiliades Scholarship. And this year's recipient, Jonathan Garneau, again, one of our fourth-year students. Now, what about this foundation laid by Dr. Seidhamel can inform our future, the future of medical education? We have had the opportunity to be enriched by one of our more recent alumni, and perhaps you saw this on television, who created a new type of technology that is featured as Doctor on Demand. This was created by Dr. Pat Basu, a graduate of both the Pritzker School of Medicine and the Booth School of Business, and recently a White House fellow in the internship program. He created what you're about to see.
Well, flu season, you can now visit your doctor and get a prescription, all without even leaving your house, because there is an app for that as well. It's called Doctor on Demand. It launched in 15 states this week, states from New York to California. According to its website, it allows patients to talk to a doctor face-to-face using the video camera on any smartphone or tablet. Whatever you have, you can talk to the doctor on it. Physicians can then offer a diagnosis, even prescribe some medication. Let's get to Dr. Pat Basu. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, that's right. How are you, Shepard?
I'm good. He's on the iPad here for us because I figured we might as well do it the way you're going to do it. And because this is television, we've stuck it up here on the big wall. Doc, so I come to you and I'm sick, right? And I've got headaches, my stomach's all messed up, my sinuses are messed up. What can you do for me?
Sure. So we can do a lot, Shepard. You know, for things such as, you know, coughs, colds, flu, urinary tract infections, a lot of common, you know, ailments of which there's hundreds of millions of visits in the United States every year. You know, we can, you know, accurately diagnose and treat those conditions, and in the cases that need further follow-up, we can give you a medical opinion that you need to go on to further care. It's
my understanding there are like 1,000 doctors involved in all this, and you can just pick up your iPad and do this as well. There's always somebody available, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so our alumni are obviously active and out there designing apps. What else are we going to see in the future? Well, of course, this is the year that we are all, as a nation, watching the launch of the ACA, and there will be a lot more to follow as we roll this out as a country. It's also the case that this year, the Association of American Medical Colleges had a competition. They invited medical schools to put together a video that might suggest what the medical school of the future should look like. So we, along with a whole bunch of other medical schools, submitted a video. Unfortunately, we were not the winners, but I'll show you just an excerpt from the video that we submitted.
Please review this material again prior to your team-based learning groups.
Hi, Cassie. Glad you could join us. Dr. Martin and I were just examining Mr. Phillips, who presented for evaluation of fatigue.
Hello, Cassie. We were just discussing the specificity of the third heart sound for the presence of heart failure.
Mr. Phillips shared with us his history of long-standing hypertension.
Mr. Phillips, would it be okay if we broadcast your heart sounds to the first-year student who's joined us? They learn early clinical skills by near partnering with our third-year students.
You know, back in the day, we would order an echo.
But nowadays, we try to avoid unnecessary tests and control costs for the sake of the patient.
Robert, what does heart failure mean? And what does it mean for me?
Cassie and I can talk with you about resources and explain all of this to you.
What can we do to help to get both patient-centered education with your and the community's resources?
I have a lecture that will help explain this better with pictures. I think it will really help. I also have identified some community-based resources. I will send this to you, Mr. Phillips, and to you, Ms. Phillips, and please feel free to contact our team with any questions that you have in the future.
Okay, what else can we expect the future of medical education to hold? I think it's very clear that bodies across the country, from accrediting bodies to certifying bodies to the AAMC itself, is thinking about medical education across this continuum of medical education, from medical school to residency and to the practicing physician. And as they're doing that, I think our orientation to the clinical biennium, where our students move from the pre-clerkship years into the clerkship years, so the undergraduate piece of medical education, is highlighted at this orientation to the clinical biennium, where we recognize and thank and celebrate the residents for their contributions to the education of our medical students. And then we also celebrate faculty. Faculty, in this case, Dr. Ann Hong, who was selected by her peers with the Peer Physician Role Model Award. And you see her pictured here with Dr. Helena Bruckner. I promised that I would tell you about the future of graduate medical education and that new role that Vinnie Aurora is appointed to. This clinical learning environment area is now the way in which the Accreditation Council for Graduate Medical Education is going to be reviewing institutions who sponsor residency programs. And those reviews are going to focus on supervision, healthcare quality and disparities, transitions of care or handoffs, duty hours and fatigue management, patient safety, all in an environment of professionalism. And so Vinnie is very busy and actively working with the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Stephen Weber, and those in his office to try to put in place the ways in which we will make the assessments of whether or not we're meeting the standards that we have set for ourselves. And you can see here some of the ways in which the ACGME will feed back information to us as an institution. Reporting of adverse events, education on patient safety, the learning environment, the institutional monitoring of a whole variety of different ways in which we guarantee the safety for our patients. Almost a year ago, in February of 2013, we opened our newest hospitals, the Center for Care and Discovery, and that facility serves our patients extremely well and gives us an opportunity for our students, residents, and faculty to work side by side with the newest technology available in healthcare. If we're thinking about the future, we of course have to take a moment to recognize and celebrate just a few of the babies who were born the past year, to members of our students or staff, and the weddings that took place. These, of course, are not comprehensive, but we also always like to take a moment to celebrate, really, the next generation, as you see pictured here. So it's been a challenging winter for those of us here in Chicago, as evidenced by Dean Polonsky thanking you at the very beginning for even being here tonight at 5 o'clock. And I want to think back to that legacy that Dean Seidhamel created. A legacy that had its initial focus on the medical students. And some of that focus is featured here. Actually, this is a particular photo that came to me from Dr. Peggy Mason, the course director for our very popular and highly coveted neurobiology course. And Dr. Mason said, "Holly, I just wanted to share this photo with you. I challenged the students to dissect the cerebral vasculature. I didn't think it was doable, but Nate Wilson and Greg Zagaric took me up on the challenge, and they did just an amazing job. I'm going to try to preserve this. I think the image is worth putting up on Pritzker's website. On the other hand, I'm not sure how advisable it is to show human brains on the web. But if it's okay, I think this shot is worthy of showing off." So there's a dissection by our students. Match day coming up in just a few weeks in March. We had a fabulous medical education day with Dr. Ree Fincher from the Medical College of Georgia. This is our group of students having ophthalmology day in the neurology and ophthalmology clinics. These are our students who go forward and advocate and have developed a real position on advocacy and trying to provide health care to populations who don't have it. And this is a group of students who are involved with the National Physicians Healthcare, and our own student, Scott Goldberg, who's one of the leaders in organizing those groups, as well as delivering a major address at their most recent conference. So it starts with the students, and the focus ultimately for all of the work that we do is ultimately on the patient. And here you see our students with patients, both in the clinics, the community, in our newest hospital, working side by side every day, trying to make lives just a little bit better for the people with whom they come in contact. So Dean Seidhamel left us with a very rich legacy built on 6 fundamental guiding principles. And at the end of the day,
during the memorial,
I'm going to show you just a few excerpts from those who summed up that great life that left a legacy that I've described tonight.
During the memorial today, you'll hear many words used to describe my father. You'll hear words like principled, sincere, steadfast, loyal, and honorable. But the word I use to describe Dad is love. My dad had a deep and abiding love for this university, for its students, especially the medical students, and for his colleagues.
Hi. Joe Seithamel was Dean of Students when I was an MD, and then later a PhD student at the University of Chicago. His wise counsel at several critical junctures in my career helped me discover myself in the 6 years I was at U of C.
More dedicated, highly principled, brilliant man you will not find. His positive influence on the lives of many, myself included, is immeasurable.
These are just a few examples of the ways that Joe influenced the lives of many students he guided through our early formative years. We all came with our special issues, and Joe listened patiently, and with his wisdom and insight, he helped us. He knew the rules, but importantly, he also knew when and how to bend them, and as far as he could bend them, in the best interests of the students that he was helping. He made it possible for us to find what we thought was important and find a way for us to do it. He epitomized the best of the University of Chicago.
And so when I think of the foundation left by Dean Seithamel, I am completely convinced that that foundation will serve us well as we move forward into the future. And I am enormously grateful to him and to all of you for what he laid for all of us to work with and for what all of you do each and every day to allow us to continue that great tradition. So thank you very much for coming here tonight.